Hi everyone. I guess this is the second part of a seminar we started yesterday with the Japanese Popstars, who return to my right with Sister Bliss to my left. As is the spirit of these things, the track and the remix were very much done on a deadline, and there's a certain element of working on the fly. I spoke to Sister Bliss on the way to the airport here. She was literally on her way to the studio to work on some bass lines, if I remember rightly. And we've decided, yeah, to invite the Japanese Popstars back to discuss how this collaboration worked, how it came together, and we're going to play you some elements before we play you the final version of the track. Where should we start? Should we start with the first thing that came to mind when you were doing the mix?
Yeah, sure. So when you do a remix, you often get sent lots of parts, but I actually only got sent the beats to start with, so I thought that was a good starting point because they were great beats. Often the vocal will inform the mood of what you're doing, but we didn't actually get the vocal because Green Velvet was a temperamental artist, so I just decided to write a brand new track over the beats that the boys over here provided, basically, and also used various elements that I weaved in and out of the track. So they provided a bit of a thunderous techno beat, which I took some things out of because I thought it was a bit banging, and I decided to take a musical direction that I would play myself in my DJ sets, and something that was a bit more melodic and progressive and a techie style, but with a bit of edge, because what they'd done was very techno-y from what I could tell, even without Green Velvet's vocal. And of course I was familiar with his style anyway, so I kind of imagined what the vocal would sound like, even though I didn't have it. So here's some thunderous drums. There you go. This was the starting block for it all. But for me personally, to do a remix, what the remixer often wants is your sound that you've popularised or that you've used on a current record. So I decided to use a palette of sounds that I've used recently on my own music. There was a couple from a collaboration we did with Example on his most recent his album, which was a high riff sound, which gave the track a bit of a mood as well. So I kind of went for the melody next, and a chord sequence. So I shall play you that. So that was a kind of lighter sound that sat on top, and from that I thought the chord sequence was quite nice, and I wanted to turn it into more of a riff, because I've kind of been known for making riffs over the years. So I chose a sort of deeper sound that I thought was a bit more chunky, and it sat with the groove. So I also added back in other elements of the groove, which I shall play you now as well. And I put a loop in as well. I took, as I said, some of the heavier techno-y elements out, and I put a more percussive, groovy loop in to give it a bit more of a sort of hip wiggling vibe, which was just that little bit sexier to me as well. So for me, again, drums have an emotion, and the Japanese Popstars drums had a real urgency to them, but then I also wanted to sort of pull them back to allow the melody to kind of breathe over the top. So this is where we got to, well, me, the royal we, this is where we got to next. Adding in the main riff, which sat really nicely with the groove. So it felt like the riff wasn't so pokey that it kind of stood out. It was actually a groovy riff. So the whole track became a groovy thing rather than a pokey thing, if you get my vibe. Kind of beginning of the track, and then for me, I think one of the all-important things is, besides the vocal, is the bass line. And the bass line really informed the shape of the track, and I like bass lines to have a melody as well. Sometimes they're just like a rumbly sound in the background that can be very exciting, you know, booming out of a club speaker, but I happen to make my bass line melodic and fit together with the other parts in the music. And when I make remixes or any music, whether it's Faithless or anybody, I almost see music as a puzzle that kind of fits together. And sometimes my problem as a musician is putting too much into a track, because it's almost infinite, the amount of little parts that can go with other parts. And you think, oh, I could put a blippy thing over the top and then something else underneath, and before you know it, everything's competing. So it's important for the bass line, if you like, to sit on the bottom and make that lovely bassy space, and then everything else kind of fits around it, even though I actually did the bass line after I did the riff and the groove. Anyway, so here's the bass line. This is the main bass line. And also, something that I really like in arrangements of house music is when you have a tension in the track, which is actually delaying the big moment. And one of those big moments can be when the bass drops. I mean, I used to love hardcore, you know, old rave records, and when the bass dropped, it was such an event. So I love records that kind of hold off before they give you the bass line, which is what I did. So I'd done quite a long intro, and then I dropped the bass. Here comes the bass. You're kind of getting the vibe of where this is going. So the idea is that the bass line also propels the track forward. It's not just a sort of still element. You know, dance music's amazing. You've got a variety of sounds and moods. You know, wherever you look, if you get your music off Beatport or wherever you get it from, you can go into lots of different genres, and, you know, lots of people like different things. So for me, I actually, the parts that I make kind of inform the direction the arrangement would make. So I spent a little time messing with sounds until I was happy with them, and then I got on to doing the arrangement, trying to make it sound really dynamic and interesting, but as an instrumental, because I still didn't have the vocals. And this is something that we always did with Faithless. I always would get the music really rocking before adding the vocals, and then we kind of know that we were onto something if the backing track sounded really strong in and of itself. It stood up without the vocals. And I didn't have time to test this out in the clubs, but in my bedroom club, it sounded quite rocking without Green Velvet on it. And ideally, it would be great to play the mix out before you deliver it to your remix commissioners, or if it's your own track. Again, for me, playing out is extremely important. It's a totally symbiotic relationship between DJing and doing remixing. But in this case, time was of the essence, so it didn't happen. So I also had to go on experience that, and also listening to loads of house music as a DJ, week in, week out. You get a feel for what sounds good in the headphones, and therefore you think, God, if it sounds good in the headphones, it's definitely going to sound good coming out of a massive sound system. But the arrangement is something that always takes a really long time to do, because there's a million ways, infinite ways of arranging a track. You know, do we start with the vocal? Do we start with a groove? You've got to be mindful that DJs like some beats to mix things in. Do you keep a melody in from the beginning? Does that make it more difficult for DJs because you've already set the key of the music, and therefore they have to choose something that will work and doesn't clash horribly if they're the kind of DJ that cares about that kind of thing? But also because the arrangement can be the thing that gives you an identity. I mean, with Faithless, there was something in the way that we built tracks and dropped them in the big moment, this build-up of tension, and then the eventual release that almost became a trademark, which has been, I would say, often imitated along the way. And also, you don't want your arrangement to confuse the dance floor, so people actually still need to get into it. I mean, it's something I've noticed more recently, that people do just want to throw their hands up in a breakdown, and, you know, do people even dance anymore anyway? But keeping it simple is a good key to keeping people grooving and, you know, not confusing them too much. They know that the big moment's coming, if you like. Anyway, so I'd done the bass line, I'd done some little parts, then there were effects to add, and then I thought it needed to have a bit of edge because it was sounding quite polite. And I was mindful that Green Velvet's got this kind of twisted energy in his vocals, so I flung in some pokey old acid because I am old school. great arpeggio, so an arpeggiator came in there because I felt like a little more melody was needed and texture on the top. So I'll just play from where we just stopped. Email from Matt, the Popstars manager, saying he has sent a vocal, but it was just a teeny tiny bit. So I thought, well, I'll work with that. And a lot of tracks you hear these days, the vocals are really mashed up and twisted and played about with, and that's become a sound that I particularly enjoy. It's not just a straight vocal. And with Green Velvet, because it's a spoken word thing, and also because across all the tracks he's done, from La La Land to, was it Answering Machine? Was that one of the ones? And he's always slightly twisted up the vocal so it sounds otherworldly and a bit diabolical. So I added in a little vocal and got busy chopping it up. I converted the audio to a sample, and so I could play it up and down the keyboard, which, funnily enough, I did, God, nearly 20 years ago with Insomnia on the very first version we did, when we were still using S1000 Akai samplers, and I used to just love chopping up vocals and making a rhythm out of them. So, shall I find you a little choppy bit? Yeah, here we go. So first of all, I ran the main vocal, which is just one line, for ages, so it became a hook, and then I kind of played with it almost like a middle eight. So I'll run for a little bit, I'll take it back a little bit so you can hear the vocal as it comes in. Some more choppy uppy stuff where I was having fun almost creating a counter melody with the vocal.
It's just a matter of time. In the summertime, you'll be mine, all mine.
So no sort of Sister Bliss track or Faithlessly Rollo Bliss collaboration, whatever it may be, it wouldn't be complete without a breakdown, so it had to have a breakdown. And thus the arrangement rolled on. I also like my music to have texture in it. I feel that some of the dance sound of now is quite identikit. There's a lot of records that sound very samey, and perhaps it's because they only have one or two elements in them and not much else. But I've always liked music that has texture in it, so you discover something in it that's new every time you listen. I'm a great fan of William Orbit, who's co-written with Madonna, amongst others, and I've always loved how I would come back to his albums in the early 90s, a long time ago, and just keep hearing things I'd never heard before. So I added a string and some sort of pads just to give it a little bit more emotion as well. And again, that sort of supports the melody in the track, but without making it kind of cheesy and uber stringy. So that is pretty much how I made the remix of the Japanese Popstars track featuring Green Velvet, which is now called Matter of Time. So I guess I should either play the whole track or throw it open.
I'll ask you guys, what do you make of the remix now you've heard it? No pressure.
You haven't heard it all quite, because I'm going to unmute everything.
Who are you first? On two.
Yeah, I think it sounds really, really good. I was actually quite mindful of the fact that whenever we sent through the parts for the remix, that it was so stripped back, and something we actually played about with towards the end of last week was actually adding in a full string section to give the track some melody and sort of to give Sister Bliss something to work with for the remix. But whenever we put it in, it sort of changed the tone of the track a lot, and we forwarded it to Curtis to make sure that he was happy with sort of how the track had changed, and he preferred it to stay sort of quite almost monotonal, in the fact that it just stays one sort of one tone the whole way through the track, and sort of feeds us. It's the vocal that really drives it, but it's the way she's developed. It sounds great.
You should be able to do that anyway.
Well,
I was just going to add that I think it, having worked in dance music and remix culture for nearly 20 years, I think it's really important, and a lot of people do forget that a remix should be a reinterpretation, a reimagining, rather than just keeping the similar. What's great about this is it takes the record in a new direction. It has a new shape, but you still recognise it, but it's got new flavour.
Thank you, Ralph. Well, that was the idea, but also because in this day and age, you need to represent yourself and your sound. And obviously, I've been in a band that had a very, very specific sound that's been often referenced. But I also want to show how I've moved on as a producer. That I do listen to lots of, like when I was chopping up the vocals, I was thinking of Right On, which is a million miles away from what William Orbit would do, for example. So I'm always like influenced by what I'm listening to, what's in my DJ box, and what are changing in production techniques. From when I started, which was on an Atari many, many, many moons ago. And like you say, if someone commissions a remix, they want your sound, and your sound can often take it to an audience that wouldn't necessarily play the original, because the original's quite uncompromising techno, in the form that I've heard it. As you probably know, we've both done tracks that are not 100% finished yet, so there's still like refining and tweaking that can go on. As I say, it could be infinite, but it's always a matter of time and when people want to put stuff out.
We do like it, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Oh, good. I'm glad you like it. But I have to say, in all the time of Faithless's career, I commissioned all the remixes that we ever put out, and the music that I'm also currently making right now. And I always find it really, really exciting when I hear someone and they have a sound that isn't the same as mine, and it's not slavishly imitating everybody else. And it's always good to pick less obvious people sometimes, because they might be the ones that are bubbling under, and you might be spotting the next trend before it goes overground. And that becomes a lot cheaper if you have to pay for the remix and it's not a swap remix. For example, we've got an amazing remix by Axwell before Swedish House Mafia exploded into this behemoth that they are now. So, because I loved his mixes, there was a great sound to them, and I knew he could work with a vocal, and it was very specific and very melodic, his sound. But anyway, yes, so would you like to hear the track?
Let's do it.
In its entirety, as it stands. Do not crash on me, you beast. Which, this is the other thing, I must add, I just had technological nightmares, so they all seem to be fixed. Gremlins, eh? everyone cheers a bit and goes, woo, woo. Come on.
It's just a matter of time.
Hammer
In the summertime, you'll be mine, all mine. It's just a matter of time. In summertime, you'll be mine, all mine, all mine, all mine, all mine.
We've gone, we're back. So I'm still not sure if it comes in right just after the breakdown, but you know, we can work on it together. Any suggestions, welcome.
And has anyone got any questions out there?
A hand. How long did it take me? That's a good question, because it sort of happens in dribs and drabs, and you may or may not know I have a small child and my nanny was ill, so I had to cram it in like a couple of snatched hours here and there. I'd say maybe call it 2.5, 3 days maximum, but split up into little tiny bits of very annoyingly snatched time, where I'd like to just immerse myself in something for hours and hours and hours. So if you're adding up, like, I don't know, 15-hour days, let's say 2.5 of them. I mean, also because there isn't much money in remixing these days. There were the days when you'd pay 75 grand to Armand van Helden to turn in a remix for you, and I think those days have probably gone. So a lot of people are doing swap mixes now, which are obviously free because you free cycle. So you know, you have to kind of apportion your time and think, okay, am I spending too long on this? Is it time to move on? But for me personally, I'd like everything that I do to be quality and to be really good. And if I'm not happy with it, I wouldn't expect the people who commission the remix to be happy with it. And it's my name going forward, even though it's on someone else's record. So I think if you know, as I say, you could spend weeks on a remix if you're one of those people that find it hard to make decisions and kind of trust your ears. And it's great to work with a studio partner, as I've been lucky enough to do for a long time, and you can bounce off them and they can say, no, that bit's really good, or that bit needs to be at least 16 bars longer. And working on your own is definitely a different headspace to be in. And I think you can probably work quicker if you do work with a studio partner, as many DJs and producers do these days. And I would also say, something that I put in my notes, that remixes do have value. Ralph and I were chatting about, has the remix been devalued as a kind of format, because there are just so many of them and people seem to sort of dash them off in half an hour. With just a massive kick drum and a clap and everything on the beat and then a big riff, and like, oh, that's a remix. But I would say, for me personally, it's been worth, every remix I've done has made me better at my craft, and has also opened the door to new original tracks. There was a time when Rollo and I had made Insomnia, and our first album, and we didn't just want to do a carbon copy of that, and then we got really stuck with where should the sound go, and we actually did a Moby remix, and that helped open the door to God Is a DJ and a second album. So you almost think of remixes as a practice ground for trying out different things which may or may not work, and also another place to get your sound out there. Keep using, if you are a remixer, and of course you want to try doing different styles, but it is very good to have one sound just for a bit so people can get acclimatized with it and then commission you on the strength of that sound that you have made your own. And then of course when it's time to move on and that sound's been caned to death and you don't want to hear any more pizzicato house, then it's time to, yeah, refresh your style. But yeah, so I personally really enjoyed doing this remix, and I hope to do some more. Now I'm not touring with a band, you know, 18 months out of every couple of years.
Thanks for that. Can I also just quickly ask another question? Could you close the window on the left and just flick through the tracks so we can see what effects you used?
You can't, because I stemmed them, but I can tell you, on the kicks we just did some great compressing. On the percussion loops, which I found some loops and I chopped them up, and I used the Evoc filter to make the loops a bit more interesting. I think they're on here. Oh, I think they've turned this, oh no, I've turned the sound down. Okay, that's not that track. I'll just quickly play you something that I had a fiddle with. So that's just a percussion loop running through an Evoc filter. So all the way through, there were different effects on every single track, but I'm afraid I didn't load up the Logic file because I've had some crashing issues, so I stemmed it, and you're listening to stems that have had a bit of a mix on them. So I didn't play you something that sounded really crappy. Hopefully. What do you want to know, Matthew, that we haven't already discussed?
I just want to put the lads on the spot there, because they clearly enjoy the remix, and thank you very much for doing it. And will you, lads, give Sister Bliss a remix back in return?
Yes, please.
For free.
On my secret new project. Well,
That's specifically to Gareth Donahue.
Me?
Specifically to you, Gareth.
Of course, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I hope
you've all heard that.
This
Yeah?
is again what
It's not for free these days, no?
what I love about remixing is it is the beginning of a beautiful friendship as well. Yeah. I hope.
Cool, I think we're done. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.